This is The Long War. I'm Robbie B, and joining me once again are my partners in crime, Kenny Boucher and Stephen Ford. What's up, guys?
Keeping it so icy in California. I know that's Juice's line, but I'm stealing it.
Yo, it's all good. Yo, we're doing the exact same thing over here on the East Coast, but actually, this has been like beautiful, 70 and sunny, my kind of weather.
Yo, it was actually icy up here in the mountains because I'm in the mountains of California right now. It was like 3 days of freezing my balls off in the mobile beats lab, aka the soup kitchen garage.
Yo, it's not looking much better for the summer.
Yo, is this where Coors is from, in the mountains of somewhere?
Colorado, where
that's in Colorado. Oh, okay, gotcha. I always just think mountains. I just didn't know if you could see the frosted peaks.
Are they blue?
So, like, true story, like, guys, I've come to grips with some things. Like, I'm a Bud Light guy. I'm a Busch Light guy. I'm everything else. But, like, I have grown to, like, I know we talk about fine wines and bourbons and whiskeys, but, like, I really wanted to talk. I've kind of switched over a little bit. I've kind of upgraded my taste, maybe, to the next level. I really appreciate a good cold Coors Light. I mean, I'm serious right now. Like, whenever I go into a bar or something, like Kickback Jackson Southern Pines open up. I've been
when
there,
you want to treat yourself.
I sit there. I'm like, man,
extra for that.
No, for real. Like, I'm like, man, I want to get my 40-ounce beer, whatever it is, and I'm like, now I have a choice. Before it's like auto Bud Light. Now it's like, damn, do I go get the Coors today or do I just stick with the?
I spend 6 extra cents.
Yeah, So I mean, it is. I mean, I know you guys have been upgrading your taste with things. I just want you to know I'm right there with you. Coors Light, tasting the Rockies, baby.
Well, this episode of The Long War is brought to you by Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Please
pay us. We will all drink the shit out of Coors Light.
I would start drinking Coors Light.
Dude, I'm allergic to it and I will start drinking it.
Yeah, I get gout when I drink beer. I will start drinking this shit.
No, I totally wouldn't still. But so I think we got a good show for everybody tonight. Obviously, it's titled "The Truth Behind" or "The Truth to" the ITC ? Exclamation point. I don't know which one, but
smiley face,
emoji. I think it's going to be a good one. We got a lot to say in the matter. Great tabletop market watch. A lot of new products coming out. A lot of stuff just got revealed. Like 5 hours ago, we got some new Armada for Star Wars. If you're into the X-Wing and the Armada scene, there's going to be a Wave 3 for Armada coming out. So we don't have Haspel here to hit up on some of the video game stuff, but Kenny's been watching some of the new Firestorm, Firestorm Armada, but Battlefleet Gothic Armada gameplay. There's some betas going on.
There is some amazing videos of this game that are just so fresh. But I do have Haspel with me right here in the Facebook chat because this is a new technology we've been using. So he is here live, 60-second delay with us, so he will be able to participate in some way. He started off, just so you know, by saying he hates my voice.
Duh. And you have a stupid face.
Yeah. But yeah, that Battlefleet Gothic, let's talk about it right now. It's in beta. A lot of people have been playing it. Almost overwhelming, crazy amount of positivity. They have a bunch of cool little race trailers coming out for the different races.
Oh, so fresh.
They're like little storyboards, kind of like minimal animation, maximum artwork, and maximum voiceover, and they are exciting. Like GW needs to take these and apply them to their website, so when you click on each one of the races, and so you have an opportunity to watch this little video, because the work one got me excited, man.
Well, I actually think the way they write their contracts is an added bonus is they technically own all that stuff now. So we could theoretically just see that randomly pop up or in a different game even. You know what I mean?
Yo, seriously, good stuff so far. Can't wait to see how good this game is myself. And that's what Haspel chimes in right now, and he says, yo, seriously, the beta, he's playing it. Looks amazing.
Yo, this is just sparking my brain right now because we were talking about where GW has been. It made me think about some novels and then voiceovers. Like, guys, should we just hit GW with this business module? Is we, the Long War, will voice over their books.
Oh,
ooh,
yeah.
A dramatic reading of Horus Rises by
I call all female characters.
Yeah. True story. But like we do it with our own twist, so like we throw our own little lingo and stuff in there. Like
We have to do it if you were them. Like
Gangster 40K.
if you were Abaddon, like not like if you were reading about Abaddon. If you were Abaddon, you have to read his part, but you have to read it like if you were Abaddon, like the decisions you would make.
everyone, if I was Abaddon and like literally every time I spoke, my sentence would start out, "You punk bitches."
That's
a good one.
Dogs or something like that.
You bitches.
Yeah. Oh man.
I imagine like Abaddon's like a mix between Starscream and Megatron.
Yeah, you know what?
Towards Megatron.
That's not too far off of how he's voiced over in the little gameplay trailers.
I just want you to know, all I could think about is I would have to be Will Smith's character from Independence Day. Every NID book there is, any Space Marine model or any guardsman or any commissar, it doesn't matter. Blank guy who's fighting NIDs, all will have Will Smith's one-liners and Will Smith's voiceover via me. They all sound the exact same. Oh, so no, that's a lot of skills. That green shit.
That's a lot of acting skills, because now what you're doing is a Keanu Reeves level performance in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Yes.
In which you play yourself, playing the robot version of yourself while fighting the evil robot version of yourself. It's Academy Award winning performance.
There it is.
Juice is going to channel that.
Welcome to Earth.
So anyway, before we keep going on Tabletop Marketplace, I got a little more intel from Battlefield Gothic, which sparked this whole thing, which is real. This is happening. He's just a little intel. He says the controls are a little frustrating, and the combat is is 2D versus 3D, but that's in line with the tabletop. So overall, he's like loving the shit out of it right now.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see a lot of true 3D naval games.
It's hard to do, man, because it's just they had Eve. I think they have Eve online, and that does it. But that's like
that's a whole nother level.
Whole another level. But what else we got from Tabletop Market besides the obviously amazing Battlefield Gothic game?
Obviously. Yeah, I can't wait to see that. So there were some pictures that surfaced today from Gamma, I believe it was, where the new Blood Bowl box set, a sealed Blood Bowl box set, was spotted from Specialist Games. We also saw the Lost Patrol, which is basically Gene Stealers versus some Space Marine Scouts. I'm not sure if that's fair.
That seems good.
Yeah, that's a new board game that'll be coming out this summer. That was also revealed yesterday as well. So it's kind of like a Death Watch kind of thing. But
hey, if they're Gene Stealers and they're not Gene Stealer cult, I mean, those scouts just need to stay in a piece of cover and shoot their shotguns out, and they're fine.
That's it.
Yep. Better not.
Actually,
better hope.
They just gotta actually not even really worry too much about shooting. Just wait till they get in cover, and do it in close combat. Mm-hmm. Because for some reason they don't move that fast in cover.
Yeah, it's just, that's just silly. I'm hoping that we see rules for those guys, because everything G-Dub's put out thus far has had rules for 40K, you know. So it's like, well, maybe we'll see special, Scout Squad rules in here and Gene Stealer rules.
Cool. Give me a special edition Scout Squad. That'd be baller.
Mm-hmm. And it just goes to show, like, they're just building up all this material to eventually, release second edition of the Tyranid Codex. Now this thing, instead of $50, it's $75 because it's like double sized, and everything.
Giant sized.
People would buy it.
Well, they put out. I mean, it's not like the books suck anymore. The books are not little magazines with black and white pictures anymore. They're amazing hardcover books.
Yep, hardcover books, tons of content. And there's something to be said for having the book on you too, instead of having the ebook. Now, I just like it because I'm not going to carry around my whole bookshelf. But there's a lot of folks that don't have all the books and don't have a reason to have all the books. So that the ebooks are perfect for those folks.
I'm all about ebooks. Don't get me wrong, but like I feel like I'm just so much less, like when I'm doing my own beats mixing in my own beats lab, trying to figure out rules, I find it slows me down versus an actual rule book.
It turns out the actual rule book is hard to update too digitally. You can't just beam an update into it.
I update it with highlights and stuff.
With scribbity scrabs.
Yeah, I got my own secret code. No one can read but me, and I'll just take my word for it.
It's that German FAQ.
Oh my god,
the worst.
Oh
man, so there's a dragon coming out too for Age of Sigmar.
Oh my god, I saw the pictures of that thing online. At first I was like, that's not real, that's a CG image, and then I looked at it, I was like, holy shit, that thing looks so crazy good.
It's a, you know, a lot of people are disrespecting it. They're saying it looks bulky and blah 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 blah. But when you look at its rules for Age of Sigmar, it's like it's got that Red Terror ability where it can like swallow up to like 3 dudes whole. Like what?
I love how people hate on like the models that are coming out from the most innovative model making company in the history of the world.
Like you can't hate on a single fantasy model that they've ever done. Those Treants, the Skaven models, the Lizardmen, like literally, I don't think they've ever made a shitty fantasy model.
Like it's
not with their new line. Like it is Nagash. Like
dude, they make the models they're making defy logic. They're just so good. It's just, but like you said, it's the vocal minority, the haters.
Yeah.
This
hey Rob,
model,
I'm sorry, Kenny. I forgot to ask. How many points was that dragon?
none.
Wait, Age of Sigmar? Is that a trick question? As many points as you want it to be.
The answer is no points. Not points.
And then talking about another Armada, Star Wars Armada just had the Wave 3 previewed on Fantasy Flight site. So they got some little transport ships that basically there's 2 to a stand that have this thing called like what is it, fleet something or another, where they're like support ships and they kind of hang out and things within a radius get it like a bonus. They're interesting. It's really going to come down to points on these guys because I think they're more for like buffing up fighters maybe.
Oh, that's cool. I love little area of effect buffs.
Yeah, it seems like their intention. Personally, I would have liked to see some more ships, but I understand we've already seen the majority of the ships, you know, in the Star Wars canon. So it's like they're kind of running out of ships almost at this point. But
I'm going to call out to Haspel because I know he's on a delay. So I'm going to talk about another Armada. Since we're talking about Armada, it's that book that I asked him about last week, and I think it's Klein who writes it, but he'll chime in by the end of this. So I just started reading that book, which is the guy who wrote Ready Player One.
Oh right, yeah.
Which first off is dope if you haven't listened to that book in Audible or read it. But it's funny because it's narrated by Will Wheaton. And which is hilarious because like he's even referenced in the book, the Ready Player One. So he's like reading it, like because it's such a good nerd book. But Armada is not the sequel, but like just another book, and it's very similar style. And I'm already loving the absolute shit out of this book. I recommend it to anybody, but hopefully Haspel will chime in here in a minute and give me the name of the author because he knows such things as that.
This is called the flotilla rule. For these little double ship stands, and they're $20 for the expansion pack. So, and I wanted to talk. I want to take a minute here while we're waiting for Haspel to get back. I was talking with a friend of mine that owns a store here locally in this area, and he's like, "Hey, what do I got to do to get more people to do impulse buys? Because we're a military town here, and a lot of folks are on a fixed budget. They only get paid twice a month, obviously. Families, so it's very important." That if they're spending money, they're stretching their dollars, so you got to give them incentive to spend their money. And and I was like, well, G-Dubs price themselves out of the impulse market. Like you can't even make the argument that is a thing. And it was kind of weird because I actually interviewed to be a GW manager. I went to workshops and they tried to hire me away from doing my bits thing back in the day and promised me this exorbitant salary, which may or may not have been a trap. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. But at this seminar, this workshop, they were like, hey, what would you do to increase, impulse sales here at the stores? And I'm like, well, I would have a bunch of stuff by the register. I would have tape measures. I would have, little, I don't know, ID tags for your army cases. Anything you can put out cheap, that's 10, 15, $20 for people to grab.
That's where Britain fucks up, man. It's like, I would literally buy a dog tag with an Imperial Eagle on it. Yep. That I can have my name on. I would literally buy a bolter around, spam bolter around keychain. I would buy a windbreaker. I would buy a beanie. I will buy literally anything. These should be stocked in your GW stores, minimum. You know what I mean?
And I realize that you want to sell more people on the whole hobby and everything when they walk in your store. But there's also the veterans that are there that are already in the hobby. They just want an excuse to buy something besides paint. And there isn't, when you go from paint, you got the overpriced tools, which a lot of people just aren't buying, let's be honest. And then you've got kits. And you got $30 clam packs. Like, where's the gap there? Like, there is no gap anymore. There's no impulse buy. So I was talking to my buddy that owns the store, and he's like, what should I bring in? And I was like, well, actually, people like Cromlech, people like Maximini, Puppets Wars, all these people that prepackage their stuff and their bits, Secret Weapon Minis has bases. They have great conversion parts as well. All of that stuff's $10-15. You bring that in, and that's the kind of impulse buys. The stuff to customize your armies is now the impulse buy. It's the gap filler, And he's like, oh, that's I like that. That's a really good idea. He's considering it or whatever. But just some food for thought out there. If some game stores that maybe not carry that stuff, but that is literally the new blister pack. I feel like your little pack of Cromlech, gravity guns or whatever, or what have you. That's.
Or I love the buzzsaw. And drill hands. That's one of my favorite bits they make.
Or Secret Weapons got pretty much every base you can make, and who doesn't need a new pack of 32mm bases to rebase their whole freaking army, right?
Seriously, man.
So just some food for thought there, for aspiring retailers and customers that have the ear of their local game store person, so to speak. Oh, and there's another thing too. I guess there's going to be a Space Marine Day on April 16th. Where you can buy an exclusive Space Marine miniature and get some free swag.
With any luck, he's armed with a Stormbolter and a power sword. With any luck. Oh my God.
Or maybe the Combi Plasma.
Oh man.
Equally as worthless.
Grav pistol, and force stave. Something. Give me.
Best combo in the history of ever.
The worst ever. Oh, but that's okay. I digress. Their models are hot. They, like we were talking about, they got the best looking stuff out there. Everybody else is clown
They're
shoes.
the most innovative model making company in the history of ever. They've literally innovated the way plastic molds are done, the way computers interact with modeling. They're the forefront. You can hate them on the rules all you want, but they're literally the best models in the business, man. Like it's just what always cracks me up when you see I don't like this model. What the hell are you talking about? Like, it doesn't, dude, their models have always had the same look since the history of their look. You know what I mean? If you liked the Rogue Trader or Space Marine and you don't like the new Space Marine, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, they're not that much different. They're just kind of like updated, I guess, Yeah,
they're not limited by the ability of a man to sculpt that small.
Oh, geez. And then remember nothing was ever to scale either. You would have those Catachans that had muscles that didn't even exist, and then you put them next to a Space Marine and they're the same size.
His bicep was so big. Yeah, his bicep wouldn't even fit in Power Armor. You're like, what?
Well, you don't get stuff like that anymore.
I love
the right scale.
OG Chaos Space Marine hands were the biggest hands in the business.
Oh, they were.
They're so damn big.
But I will say, Chaos always had the cool shit, man. Like they always had like the actual mobile looking power fists, with like fingers that you could always
that
give
was
your opponent the
Renegade,
finger.
The Renegade champion power fist. Back in the Road Trader days, he was the metal Chaos Space Marine champion.
And he had it up in the air like he was swatting.
Yeah, it had 3 fingers and a thumb. It was the clutchest power fist of all time.
Yo, I cannot tell you how many of those I sawed off. Of those miniatures.
Oh my God! I glued those bitches up on everybody.
Yup. And then you had 2 poses, up and down.
I was in my beat slab sawing them off of a solid metal, dude, all day.
Oh, so brutal, man. Hobbying back then was tough. You didn't have an internet. You had to buy magazines. You had to like bribe the old guys with like Chinese buffet to teach you how to paint. Like it's crazy.
Oh my God! The day I learned about dry brushing, like I just threw shit away. I was like,
I was like, well, how did I not know this?
Haspel came back in with a joke I was hoping he'd hit me with. I'll go back first off a second. Ernest Cline is the author of Armada, the book I'm reading right now. Amazing. He talks about like I bought the overpriced tools, then I realized I was still using the same busted ass clippers from like 20 years ago. So I bought the nice Citadel clippers because I figured over 20 years it actually is dirt cheap.
There's something to be said. Those clippers are nice. They cut like butter.
They do. I have 2 of them. He said, but you also know what they say about dudes with big hands. I was waiting for someone to make that joke about Chaos. And here's the best part: it's like they didn't have like armored hands. They were wearing like clearly leather gloves.
Yep.
And so it's like, damn.
Especially the Berserkers.
The Berserkers are wearing leather gloves, dog.
Yep.
And those are some gigantic ass hands.
Oh, remember what was it? The High Elf Spearmen. They had the hand. It was the sculpted hands. They looked like monkey hands. Their hands were as big as their head.
So funny.
Worst.
It's so funny.
Technology, man. Technology.
Yeah, no doubt. And we do have a lot of crazy things to talk about tonight.
Oh yeah.
And I know we're just working our way up to it, getting into it because I know each one of us has some incredibly compelling stuff to talk about on the subject of tonight's show, which is the truth about the ITC. And I guess we'll do our preamble and then take a quick commercial break, get that out of the way. And so the preamble of tonight's show is that in the past, we have been on record as, comparing the ITC to our format, our Bringing Hobby Back format, creating a rift there and possibly disagreeing with them in a lot of ways. And, straight up, being negative in some situations. But the caveat is that no matter what we say, I want you to remember that the Frontline Gaming, what they're doing for the community is amazing. And the ITC is overall good for Warhammer 40k. And we're going to possibly dispel some of our preconceived notions, mainly me. I say we because, I want to stand united with my brothers, but mainly I'm the most negative one in the group. We all typically have different opinions, which is what makes us an exciting ensemble of characters. We don't just all agree with each other constantly. So I'm looking forward to, stepping out and objectively analyzing the ITC and defending it, because I find that if you defend something you've been against for a long time, you'll start seeing the truth in something that you were blind to just because you didn't want to open your eyes to it. And, I guess having said that, let's take a quick commercial break. Hear from our sponsor tonight. We are mobile, so we're not going to be hitting you with nearly as many commercials as we normally do, which I guess enjoy it while it lasts.
Take advantage of it.
And we'll hit you back up on the flip side. Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. TheLongWar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos.
So let me jump in here real quick and say, I have a lot to say. First of all, I respect Reese as a businessman first and foremost because we did a lot of the same things in the past. Don't necessarily do a lot of the same things. I am a little confused by some events today where he allowed a guest editorial on his site that took a direct attack at me personally, and I'm not exactly sure why that happened. Basically, with some guy from TFG Radio, whatever that is, named Salty John. Sounds like a very positive individual. I don't know, but and this goes along with all the internet hate and everything that obviously a lot of us get, myself in particular, from time to time. Where it's not necessarily completely, I guess, based in fact, because his comment was that he says, seriously, stop listening to Spikey Bits, etc., about bringing hobby back, air quotes, and their consistent sky is falling, fuck GW, but still buy their products from us, hubba-blue. I would like to go on record and say, I don't fucking sell Games Workshop products. I don't know what this guy's talking about.
I don't make any money. I don't have stock in GW, do you?
Yeah, I do not. I haven't owned a store in almost 2 years now. And even I don't know what he's talking about. Consistent sky is falling. I don't know what he's talking about.
Salty Balls, if for some reason you ever think that us complaining consistently about them fixing dreadnoughts is the worst, that sky is falling, then I will completely agree with you. Fuck GW until they fix our dreadnoughts. But that is not what we do.
Yeah. So second of all, we do some articles, we do some rules conundrums and things to show people what is out there and what you could walk up to at your local game store, some ridiculous combination. It isn't a sky is falling mentality. It's an educational mentality.
No, we're equipping gamers with the tools to succeed.
Correct.
Hey, and we focus primarily on the social element of tools. Not just here's the best army list, here's the best tactics, which we do cover in our battle reports, and we do tips and tactics, but we're focused on the social contract. And you need to be aware of some of the things that people are doing out there, and so you can be ready to defend yourself on the table with your words.
Yep, because you have to be, if you cannot get your point across, well, the point's already lost. So, in that regard.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but like also with some of the things that we brought up, guys, it's not like if we bring something up, it's you have to know what point to argue.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like
and
you can't just, if I'm not mistaken, I would like to go back and the true veterans know when we discuss something, how many live organic conversations of like literally, guys, we are breaking this. Robbie B is knee deep in 4 books. We're checking this left and right. We're literally having the debate and conversation on air, so you can guys see how something like that is the guts of how you have to have a conversation like that. There's no. The sky is falling mentality.
Yeah, don't be a salty balls.
Yeah, come on.
Seriously. To be honest, it's a Gets editorial, but it was posted by Reese. So I feel like Reese should approve this, or maybe he allowed it through. Either way, Reese, you owe me an apology. Like, this is not based in fact. It's a low blow jab, and I expected better from somebody that's in the same writer circle as myself. Obviously contributed to polls and all sorts of things. So that being said, that's how I feel about it. Other than that, obviously, I feel like Reese is a great businessman.
Yes, we can have a difference of opinion with an individual and
sure.
still drink 100 beers with them every day.
Yeah, but I'm not going to let somebody come on my site and publish a guest editorial taking an unfounded and not based in fact jab against Reese. That's just not right. So I'm not going to. That's just not going to.
Robbie B is known for banning the motherfucker. Okay.
I will ban whole cities.
Like, true story, Robbie B, you start talking some junk, start talking out the side of your head like they used to say back in the day, and guess what? You'll be talking on another forum.
Yes, yes, you'll be talking because like we recognize that the Warseer forum went offline.
Yeah, it's back. It's back now though, but they lost.
It's back now, but for like a month. Stuff. All the forum trolls up on there were looking for a new place to be trolls, and we felt it. We felt a surge in negativity.
A lot of people did.
A surge in negativity hit everything, and so we just started banning people who thought they can bring that negativity, that unrestricted, unmoderated type of talking that people on the internet are notorious for doing.
And that's literally what we talk about is bringing the hobby back. Is not like we're not just talking it in a game of 40K. Like we're talking, that's the social contract, not just in the 3-hour game, but like in the forums that you go to, in the shows that you listen to. Like.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all fun and games till it becomes personal. If you threaten to kill one of my friends with his own femur because the way he starts out one of his posts, well, first of all, you might be mental. Like, just stop. Go get yourself checked out and step away from the keyboard. Like, and
also sit by the front door and wait for the cops to show up.
Yeah, seriously. So we had problems. We banned stuff. Anyways, getting back to the ITC itself, I think it's a great thing. I don't agree with certain points. The points I've talked ad nauseum over this stuff, but I don't agree with the voting. I really don't. I don't. When you allow people to vote, they're going to vote for what they want. They're going to vote for their needs. And that sometimes is an issue. However, I do like the fact that it is an all-encompassing FAQ and that it is the standard. And if you want to change it, they even say on their site, they're like, hey, take the parts you want, change what you want, leave what you want, and then use it for your gaming community. And a lot of people forget that. They're like, we're supposed to play it just this way. And not necessarily. Not necessarily. Like with the tournaments I run here in the local area, I use the FAQ, but I don't use the construction and the comp and the way you build things. You can bring whatever because we're using a sportsmanship score and we're using a comp score. So if you want to bring, you can bring 5 or 8 nights.
You don't use the ban list basically. Like their comp is a ban list. Our comp is a player police composition score. So we're both trying to do comp. They're doing it through document management, and we're trying to do it to holding each other to a higher social standard.
Right, like not threatening to kill people with their own femurs, and
Not to say that anyone at Frontline Gaming is threatening to kill each other. They are not doing that.
No. It's we're crossing.
We are trying to
now.
Yeah, we are trying to discourage that behavior, which has been promoted by a completely unmoderated level of communication that's been taking place in our community. And I've met many people who came from another wargaming community and immediately were turned off by Warhammer 40k communities online because of this phenomenon.
it's there's a lot of angst, there's a lot of social ineptness and things like that, and that's a whole nother podcast we can get into.
Yeah, I mean, so I would like to try to say is like pros and cons. You've heard us talk in length, as we say, but we're kind of diving in for this episode. I can tell you a list of things that I cannot stand about the ITC. That list does not hinder the fact that I appreciate what they are doing. I am also on record saying that I feel very confident within the next 5 years there won't be a tournament or a tournament system for the most part. It's going to have an ITC label to it somehow, right?
Mm-hmm.
I use the analogy a lot with the NFL switching over and literally taking over the UFL, and becoming that one entity that everybody can get behind. I would not be as surprised to see in 5 years from now there's a ITC East Coast, like the NFC AFC.
Yeah, no, I've quoted you in the past many times because it is a perfect spot-on analogy. That's a SAT, analogy right there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you're right. I can agree with you big time on what you're saying. Like, I don't always agree with what they're putting out, but I also don't agree with what the NFL says sometimes. But I still
are you kidding me? Like, are you like I'm about to throw another analogy for all our football fans out there. I can't disagree more than what an actual catch is these days. You got to have 2 feet in. You got to make a football move. You got to do the biggest horse shit. It is so gray that it says that you have to hold the ball to make a football move. How long do you have to make a football move for? A tenth of a second? There's no true, there's so much wiggle room and stuff that it doesn't even, it's unclear, you know what I mean? But so that same premise, when you're going to be on top, there's going to be haters and doubters and this, and that's exactly what, I cannot stand that they think that switching invisibility to what it is. I don't believe invisibility should have changed. It's frustrating as stuff. I don't believe some things as this and this. So, changing fundamentals to the game, I'm down with restrictions. I actually just got in saying that, too. I am completely with restrictions. A point cost from 1850 to 1750, 2000, that's a restriction, guys. You only tell me you play with one Lord of War. I am perfect with that. I'm with that. That is a restriction. Put to go in and change fundamentals from 2 or 3 rolls with this. I understand the concept of it, but it's literally what it does is it breeds the aspect of where do you start, where do you stop, because of the fact that they've went to a more liberal aspect of a player community, not even a player, a community-based judgment system that does leave a lot of things open-ended, for sources and whatnot. So either way, my personal quorums doesn't matter, I literally don't care, and I love playing in the format and things like that. But that still won't stop me from having my opinion about, whether one rule is one way or the other.
No, but you have a lot of great points, and it won't stop me from playing and enjoying myself there. Not my major thing, but in the past, my major thing has been document management. It just seems like an impossible pace to maintain with. But they have been doing it. They have been maintaining their ever-growing, living, organic document with almost daily releases by GW. They have been putting the polls out. They have the resources to accurately record those results and publish them in their document in almost live time. I mean, they're doing an amazing job. And so the document management element of it has possibly been maybe a personal limitation on my part where I'm there's no way you can do that. Because, I'm because I don't have the resources to do it. But I'm seeing daily that they do have the resources to do it. And like I said, you can't agree with everybody. It's impossible. Abe Lincoln said that shit, He said it's impossible to have everyone's support. But they're slowly winning my support.
Well, to get back what Juice was saying about fundamentally changing the rules, that creates little mini power vacuums and things. The stuff I was talking about last year, around summertime when all the super codex release schedule, and one thing everybody was pissed off about one thing, and then next week another codex came out, and it basically dealt with the thing that everybody was mad about, but now there's a new thing, and there was 5 weeks of that just solid. It was just everybody just stop, just calm down, just take a breath. But when you start fundamentally changing the rules, I feel and we've talked about this before, for instance, invisibility. You hit them counting as ballistic skill 1, shooting. Well, there's a spaceful formation that says when you shoot at the formation, they're -1 ballistic skill. So how does that work? Now you've created more work for yourself. Now you've created more caveats and more.
Yeah, now you got to write a new thing saying, okay, it doesn't actually take you down to ballistic skill 0.
So I'm not saying do it or don't do it, but if you're doing it, you got to remember that there are these little offshoots, and you have to address them, because if you don't, you're just as worse as GW opening, all these crazy loopholes that they do, which basically created the circumstance.
And the thing is,
though,
they are doing it, though. They are addressing the things that come out. And for us, though, we find it to be a much more simpler solution to just create a composition score and play everything. Unrestricted play combined with a composition score.
We've been updating it just as much as Reese and them update their FAQ. Each event
but
we learn something
more
new.
Manageable, totally more manageable document. You know what I mean? Like, and I have heard some people on other podcasts, hating on like, hey, we're never going to tell you, like, we're never going to put like your opponent's the power to change your score in your opponent's hands. We're just going to show you how to win, like taking shots at us. And stuff
but that being said, they don't understand that the system is there, and there's a law of averages. So if you get one people that's like a b-hole towards you, or you are able to con one person that you're not a d-bag, it's still going to reflect in your score. Yeah, like there's going to be an average.
No doubt. And this is my favorite. This is my favorite argument to fight against, which is, oh, I just don't believe subjective scores to be in Warhammer 40k. Motherfucker. What about 40k isn't subjective? Everything you do is subjective. Tape measure, subjective.
When you roll a dice.
Subjective. Unit selection and composition, subjective. Literally, this is 100% subjective. The terrain on your table, the interpretation of the terrain, the one judge you found who agrees with your opponent and not you. Literally, 100% of this hobby is subjective. Why the fuck are you butthurt about subjective composition scores? Like, the ITC is exactly the same as us. Like, they have a subjective poll. Like, it's not objective. It's subjectively voted on and it incorporated into a document. The document remains objective because it's an inanimate fucking object. but
ultimately,
context of it.
the ultimately it is it's subjective to what you're going to vote on. Like, it is what your personal preference is. But one thing, like, I'd like to put in, and I don't want to beat this subject about like changing fundamental rules of the games or anything else. I don't want to beat it to death, but I would just like to put this concept out there for you. This is the reason why, if some people at home, they're listening or driving or wherever they hear this, and they're like, Juice is an idiot. Why doesn't he think invisibility? Invisibility is stupid. It's this and this. Okay, so I want you to understand something. Invisibility is tough. 2-up rerollable is maybe even worse, right? A 6-up feel no pain, or excuse me, a 1-up feel no pain. Man, that's terrible. All these things, right? So I firmly believe that if you're going to put those restrictions, then I would like to see the poll that says your army cannot shoot more than 70 shots in a turn.
I completely agree. You've been saying that for over a year.
So I really want everybody else, maybe you pump the brakes a little bit, maybe you turn down the radio up just a little bit more, because you're like, wait a second, what did you just say? So like, let's put this in perspective. Like, this is that rabbit hole that you're chasing once you start changing the fundamental rules of the game. I believe that if you are going to nerf invisibility, you're going to change a 1+ feel no pain, you're going to do these other things, then now I am not cool with a Tau army, a drop pod army, any other army that can shoot 240 shots a turn. I don't want to play against scat bikes that can shoot 300 shots a turn. Yeah, that should be banned.
Yeah, like, if you're going to ban the thing that protects you from that, then you need to restrict that. That's the problem, is going back to what Rob said, is all you do is shift the meta. You just change what is good. And traditionally, assault crushes shooting because it has so much more power, right? Now that armies shoot better than the best assault armies can assault, and they can do it from 40 inches away, we need these improved abilities. You need to say, ignore cover doesn't exist. Ignore cover is -1 cover. Straight up, you can never go -1, because we need those. You can't say, you got to say, you can never shoot more than 85 shots. The end. You can't, so if you're going to take that away.
Yep, absolutely. So, guys, so I just want to make sure that I'm not just making a stupid blanket statement saying, oh, don't change fundamentals of the rules. Invisibility needs to be in there. Oh, Jews must be playing invisibility games. Y'all know there are armies with invisibility. Y'all know I play NIDS. You know, I don't have all these cool things. You know what I mean? But I'm coming looking at it objectively, looking at it saying, hey, look, if you're going to tell me, you know, that you are going to start this, then let's think open-mindedly and not in a vacuum, and not just say, yes, I agree with everything they're doing, because, you know, to be honest, if it wasn't for Tau back in the day in 6th edition, we wouldn't need to come up with 2 of rerollables. You know, if it wasn't,
it forced us to still be able to play an assault army instead of all shooting all the time.
Yeah, so I mean that's where we're standing at, and that's the reason why we made and I make, you know, the statement saying don't change the rules of the game. If you're going to start banning things, you need to look at a true overall aspect of what you're banning. Because furthermore, I could keep going with this. Hey, this is an objective-based game. Well, it is unfair to. And we're talking about fairness and the field badges and stuff like that. If you play against Gladius Strike Force that has 1 million free models and they're all objective secured, all everything, and where's the game going, guys? Objectives. Kill points are basically done away with. They're secondaries in most aspects. Victory points, you can't even really find it in the game anymore, right? Like, it is literally the crux of most missions are objective based. So now you're telling me an army that decides to move 1 billion inches and or drop pods and or Gladius that has millions of free objective secure units, I would like to see a ban come up that potentially restricts how many objective secure units that you can have in an army. That is just as powerful to win an objective game as an invisible unit.
Absolutely.
And don't forget too, you got the chaos demons that can hold objectives, and just by walking by,
just for being on them, they're not even on them anymore.
As long as walking by
whatever. Right? So, like, again, guys, you know, you can turn your radio back to normal now. I just want to make sure that you realize that we're not just spewing shit out of our mouth, you know, even though we can laugh and joke and sound stupid sometimes, you know, like, there's actual validity behind what we're trying to say. You know, we have actually been in the game for a while. We do look at it from both sides.
Part of our business model is to track trends, and this is not a new trend. This is not new. We've seen it all before. You know, it all comes back around. You know, and so you're right. And before you go, Rob, I want to get Haspel in on this one.
Oh, word.
Haspel's been sending me his thoughts through Facebook since he couldn't be here with us tonight.
Through a connected series of tubes.
Yep, using a vacuum system. He says the ITC is fantastic. Love or hate it, it is a common rule set that cuts down on the shenanigans and lets 2 people play beyond turn 2. He says without the ITC, he probably wouldn't be playing 40k anymore. He'd be playing X-Wing or Armada, Team Inc, or even 30k, since now I have a job that can afford crap. He said our system works. Like, he's like, we talk about the Long Wars comm system. He's like, the drawbacks are, you know, going back to your previous statements, like, there are a lot of D-backs currently still out there. And he uses a little anecdote from his local scene. He's like, we even go as far, like in our local scene, this is Colorado, we've modified some of the things like void shields. He's like, you know how they go out 12 inches and it's like, yo, I got 1 model in range of it and I'm a whole unit, which is toe dragged 15 more inches across the field at 1 inch away from you. You can't shoot at them even though you're right there. He's like, yo, we don't play it that way. We're like models inside only. You know, so like that in line. So they're all about, you know, in his scene, changing those rules. And house rules have always existed. And that's fine. You know, we understand that house rules exist, and we do understand the responsibility of everything. We've always played with restrictions in the game, as Juice mentioned before. There's always been a restriction. Point limits, there's been unspoken restrictions. There has been, you know, we couldn't even play with independent characters back in the day. You know, so that's a part of the game.
That stuff, yeah.
You know, and it is a part of the game, and we understand that the ITC is doing their best, and they are ultimately good for this hobby. But Juice, you made some points that are so beyond contestation. They're like truth. So like before someone, you know, tries to like, this is the caveat here was I opened my eyes. I closed my eyes to the ITC because it just simply wasn't my opinion. My opinion was don't change one rule, unadulterated 40K, you know, not 40K light. But so I spent some time the last couple of weeks opening my eyes to somebody else's opinion. And I've found a lot of truth in the ITC that, like, you know, just last week I hadn't found. I had found nothing but things I disagreed with. And so if I can do it, you can do it. If you're an automatic ITC person all the time and you think what we're doing is stupid, just listen to what Juice said. Rewind it. Listen to it again. Open your eyes to it and see that there's truth to it. There's more than one way to play this game. And we're not trying to replace the ITC.
Yo, absolutely not. Like, to be honest, I don't mean to cut you off, but like, in my opinion, I don't even see us in contention. Like, we're not even in the same. Like,
No, we're not. We're not out
honestly,
there running events. We're not.
no, like I don't even.
Renting
Again,
hotels.
Kenny, I apologize to interrupt, but like I don't even see, for anybody who wants to try to compare what we're doing, or like, oh, they're mad because they're trying to create. Like, absolutely not. There's more than one way to play any kind of game. What we're doing, and versus bringing the hobby back in a non-actual true competitive scene, is not what ITC is doing. You know, like they are going globally national. You know, like we're not even saying like the United States. Like, they are full on balls out global. Like, I am so pumped for them to have events, and they talk about in Japan and Australia and all these other things. Like, yo, prestige worldwide, boats and hoes. They are touching all corners, right? So like, with that being said, it's like, that's not what we're doing here. You know, like, if we can spread and touch and do those things, but like, you know, that's it. And I have to admit, I'm sorry, I'm amped up about this topic. I knew that it was coming.
Haspel just came in and was like, dude, Juice is coming down hard on it. And I was like, don't worry, Haspel. I'm going to come in and defend it. And it's just 1 second.
And I love what the ITC, like, and I've actually been a proponent of the ITC for as long as they've actually been around. I've actually been behind closed doors for other groups that we've been a part of and whatnot, saying, yo, we need to align ourselves with these people, because I've grown up watching the NFL. Like, I know what happens when there's the new guy on the block that has taken over. Like, either you get on or you're not with, you know. But the one thing I will say about what Haspel said, doing local events, changing things, or house rules. A house rule is amazing. Like, I love it. Guys, how many events have you went to? How many local events? And you're like, hey, we do something at a tournament, and we're like, no, that's not how we play here. Oh, that's a house rule? And they're like, yes, absolutely. Don't worry about it. I don't need an FAQ for a house rule. It would be nice, but to my point is like, so that's what they changed there, but that is not the same concept of doing a national global entity that has so many working parts that you have to describe everything, because if not, you have thousands of people showing up to thousands of or hundreds of different events throughout the world and paying top dollar to come to your event. Like, doing a house rule isn't the same in a local shop, which we are big proponents of, versus doing house rules per se to change things on the grand scale.
You know, I want to make a point here. Like, I don't feel like this is a competition between the ITC and what we do here at the Long War at all. And as a matter of fact, you can actually use the comp and the sportsmanship along with the ITC FAQ and their ban list, air quotes. I literally do it once a month, and I've pretty much perfected it, you know, in my local scene here. So if you want to take the restrictions off what you can play and hold players accountable and get rid of the D-bags that come to your store and the, you know, the win at all costs kind of guys, this is the way to do it. Now, granted, some stores are all win at all costs, and they're like, yo, just like Salty Balls over there, hey, I don't believe in that, you know, bringing hobby back is stupid. Well, that's fine. But at the end of the day, we're not in competition. Like, we all, like, everybody listening to this right now as a podcast, I'm sure this isn't the only podcast you listen to. There's millions, or not millions, but there's, you know, a top 20 of podcasts.
Yeah, you listen to at least 5 other podcasts.
Right. We're not saying, you know, I'm not even beginning to assume that we're gonna do all this tournament series and do all this other stuff. Like, we're running some doubles events as part of other events, because that is convenient for us and it helps those events out, and we have allied ourselves. But we don't have delusions of grandeur. Like, we're not, you know, the ITC and the frontline gaming thing. But that being said, there's plenty of people around the globe that have used our tournament packet in their events and things like that. So, you know, there's plenty of channels out there. There's plenty of YouTubes. There's plenty of podcasts. There's enough room for everybody to go around, and we all rise with the tide at the end of the day.
No doubt. Let me hit a point that Haspel just said. It was like he was literally quoting you guys in the future, because he's on a 60-second delay. So basically, here's what he says. The main drawback of the Long War bringing hobby back format is that 6th and 7th edition re-educated players winner takes all while neglecting hobby. That is a fact. It's true. Our format is going to have growing pains until we can re-educate folks about how to be good hobbyists and wargamers and not just win at all cost players. Basically, you and Juice just hit that, and he put it together like a writer in like kind of one paragraph. And it's true. That is the growing pains of our format, is that everyone right now in this trend has been re-educated to win because you've never been rewarded for anything but winning in these 2 editions. But in 5th, 4th, and 3rd edition, you're all absolutely rewarded for hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So it's a trend. It's literally like we said. We've seen the trends coming. We've seen the trends go. The only danger of the ITC, in my opinion, is that it locks us into never coming back around to the hobby. But that's why we're here, trying to bring hobby back. We're not trying to replace anything. Ultimately, Americans thrive on choices. Typically 2.
Yeah.
We watch 2 teams play. You got your favorite, but you still watch the other ones play. We have 2 presidential candidates. We have you go to Target, you go to Walmart. We literally are all about 2 choices, and we're just trying to be another choice in the world of Warhammer 40k.
Yeah, and I mean, I would also like to point out a lot of things, if I haven't already insinuated enough, of what I enjoy about the ITC. Like, I love knowing and again, it's already happening, and this is the East Coast, guys. Like, if I go to an event in my local area within a mile out, and that is the RDU Raleigh area to Fayetteville to Spring Lake to my even local store, guess what FAQ we're using? The ITC. Right, so I commend them in soft golf clap because we're back to this is more of an easy tournament circuit, right? Like when GW came out with great FAQs, we only had to know one. On the webcast tonight, I spoke about what is the gentleman's name again? I'm sorry, for the INET fact.
Oh, John Regal.
Yakface. So, this man got a lot of heat. He created it. Good, bad, or ugly, it didn't matter. There were so many haters that hated on it. A lot of people loved it. One way or the other, it didn't matter. In 5th edition, it was either GW or the INET, right? Like, that was the next step. It was a huge 15-page. Like, it just seemed like it kept going. But either way, I didn't agree with a lot of that shit then, but guess what? I knew it was happy. Half of my body was happy because I knew I show up to a tournament and I knew what rules we were going to be playing with, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
That's where, like, it doesn't matter. It's like I tell my employees or people when I've been in the kitchen, when you're cooking, you make a decision. Good, wrong, or right, just make a fucking decision and go with it, and then we'll talk about it later. Like, I just like knowing that a decision was made, they pulled the trigger on something. They pulled the trigger on invisibility. They pulled the trigger on this and this. I will still bitch about it, but that doesn't mean that I'm mad and I'm going to boycott or go on the internet and talk posts or anything else. Right? I love what the ITC is doing.
Yeah, at the end of the day, everybody wants choices.
And God bless,
that's what it's all about.
And Rob, you actually said it best. When the ITC is doing good, we as a 40k podcast and group are going to be doing good. Like, this isn't where, oh man, one person's success is another person's downfall. Like, that's not the type of system that is going on here. Like, if GW fails, we all fail, guys. If Warhammer loses and gets Age of Sigmar, we all lose, right?
We all lose. We're going to have to make our own game system, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, like, look at what's happening. If one group is so strong, like with the competitive scene in the ITC, like I'm in love with it because it gets people's minds going. It gets people in their Beats laboratory talking about things, getting smarter and more intelligent about the game. So maybe people can make true feeling choices instead of just like people who started the game in 7th edition or people who've been in the game for 10 years.
True objective-based decisions.
Yes, so I feel like maybe in the 5-year mark when I honestly believe that the ITC and the frontline gaming guys take over the gaming community from the tournament scene, the competitive tournament scene, right? I honestly believe that the polling that they do is actually going to become a lot more intellectual because it is raising smarter gamers. It's exactly what we're doing. We're going through a growth process of trying to raise and train intelligent gamers instead of not just like army jumping trolls.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of damage just in a short period of time. The 6th edition was out. That did a lot of damage to the hobby.
That did that we're trying to undo it now. So before we're getting close to our hour, and so I want to run this anecdote by you guys, and I'm really glad that I went after Juice because it was really interesting to hear Juice's opinions because Juice is traditionally between the two of us been way more positive about the ITC than me, and he went through it from his heart this episode and really, showed some of his emotions versus some of his heart versus his brain and what he always struggles with. But ultimately, I was so glad to hear some of those points because I've always felt those ways and I'm so glad I wasn't alone. But now let me run you by an anecdote. So that changed some of my perceptions. Obviously, I'm on the West Coast now in the ITC world. I've been thinking about going to the tournaments out here. Obviously, going to start, meeting and greeting, handies and hugs and hooking up with some people. And so I'm in an interesting precipice where I don't actually have an army. Next Level Painting doesn't own an army right now. We don't. So I have a Chaos Army on loan, so that I've painted back in the day, but I need to make a new army. So originally I was like, I'll just make a new Chaos Army. I was like, wait, that's kind of lazy. It's I don't have an army. I should take this as an opportunity to make a new army. And so I chose Orcs. That was a decision that didn't take me very long at all to think about because I was like, Orcs, that's my style anyway. I used to play them back in the day. I love them. They're also another underpowered codex like Chaos. I think that Chaos love the awareness of the Chaos love has been spread enough. Let me take a new little project under my wing and I'm going to do it with Orcs. So initially, I was going to play an Orc army, and it was going to have some strength in it, as much competitiveness as I can put in it, and with some MSU. And I was resisting the cheap Stampa that was made popular by the ITC recently here at LVO. And we recently talked about it on a podcast, it's outdated, it's crazy to let it in, it's so OP. And I was like, I feel that. And then I started doing research because I hadn't actually opened my eyes. I just was going on my closed eyes snap opinion, and I opened my eyes, went online, called a few people, read some of the polls on the forums, read some of the back and forth discussions by people who voted on allowing it. And it kind of changed some of my mind of the ITC. This is kind of what led me to having a way more positive outlook on it because I hadn't been as proactive in that process in the past. I've been doing a lot of opinionated, subjective-based talking, and so now I'm like, okay, now I got a little bit more ammunition. I got a little bit more awareness. And so first off, that Stampa, that's in the Dreadmob PDF, which is a 100% legal PDF. That is, it did come out in 6th edition, so we can say it's outdated, but there's codexes that are 6th edition old. There's codexes that are older. So are they not allowed? You know what I mean? So I was like, wait, I got to re-educate myself. And so I was like, okay, the Dreadmob formation is totally legal. That's where the Rippa is from, which I have 100% embraced as a viable war boss, which I'm going to use in all my Orc armies. And I'm like, well, the super big mech that lets you upgrade to the 400 point Stampa, he's literally the first entry in that document. I was like, wait, I didn't realize that this guy was literally this legal. I thought he was dig deep into something, let's allow some shenanigans. I was like, no, this guy's front page legal in this PDF. And then I started reading about, okay, there was a couple people online who were like, this is just so OP. You can't have a 12 whole point, Stampa that's only 400 points, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, that's initially how I felt. But then overwhelmingly, people came in and said, are you kidding me right now? It's Orcs. First off, you're trying to make Orcs less competitive. They're already one of the least competitive codexes. And they recently just lost the Green Tide, which has been perceived and accepted as one of their only competitive outlets. So now you're going to say that 100% legal 400-point Stampa is not legal and it's too OP? And I was like, I'm starting to agree with you. Then I started doing my own beats, my own version of that in my own mind. Started thinking about it, calling Mark up, Marcus Parkus, the great one, Orcs for Life. And this is where I came to. So first off, we already know GW is underpointed gargantuan creatures and overpointed super heavy walkers. Fact. They literally say a Wraith Knight is 300 points and a Night Titan is almost 4. Wraith Knight, 100% more survivable all day. Just listen to any one of our Dreadnought arguments that we make. So, a Stampa, 12 whole points, initiative 1 versus a Knight Titan, which is 6 hull points, initiative 4. Now, a Knight Titan comes built in with a 4+ invulnerable. The Stompa, all intents and purposes, armor save dash, doesn't have an armor save. So I asked this to Rob earlier. I was like, so when a model that essentially does the same thing as another model has literally no armor save, how many wounds should it have versus the model that has an armor save? Like 4+ armor save, 6 wounds, 0 armor save. How many wounds should he have to be just a survival?
Double.
Literally minimum double.
Double.
Literally minimum double. So right out the gate, he needs double hull points just to be considered equal. So a 400-point Stomper with 12 hull points and no save versus a 375-point Knight Titan that has 6 with a 4 save, get out of here. That right out the gate, it matches up. That's just common sense. And it's in a legal document. Then I got to thinking more. He's initiative 1, son. He will always swing last versus another Knight Titan who gets to do a destroyer weapons against him. You need minimum double the wounds of the attacker who's going first with the destroyer weapon to have the prayer to get to swing your destroyer weapon one time in a game. Correct?
Yep.
Correct, because he rolls 1/6, D6 plus 6. You're like, wow, I still have 2 hull points left. Maybe. You know what I mean? Maybe. So then the argument comes up with like, oh, well, someone hit me up with like, yo, but literally, or someone online was like, yo, but he can get the 4+ invulnerable from the custom mega field and this and that. And I was like, okay, right out the gate, that's Gosgo supplement. You got to take another CAD or whatever. And you got to take a big mech with a custom force field, and you got to take your troop choices. That's like 200 more points.
Yeah, so he's not a 400-point guy anymore.
He's not a 400-point guy anymore. He's right at the gate. He's 600 points right there before you even started talking. 600 points, and he has the same shooting save that the guy who's 200 points less than them has. And then additionally, my guy has no guns. My guy literally has a solid shot D shot. Literally hits on a 5, 1 shot D, right? Hits on a 5, not 2 shots targeting 2 independent creatures that hit on 3s that are twin links at the time.
So that means you're 1 hitting on a 5. Like literally, that means you will get a successful hit 1 in every 2.5 games.
Yes, because you're going to be in combat. Really
combat
fast.
By turn 2 or 3.
Yes, he also has the lift the drop, which is similar. It's a hilarious orc weapon, which if it hits, it only works on vehicles, and that can only work on vehicles that are 4 or less hull points. If it hits, you fling the vehicle and it explodes. So it's kind of like rolling a 6 on a destroyer weapon, but it only works on 4 hull point less vehicles, and it still needs a 5 to hit. He has 2 guns that both need a 5 to hit, that are both sort of powerful, that will hit once every 2.5 games if you're playing this guy right. So if so these like big mech stompas, if you want to make them shooty, it's 100 points per weapon. That's good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So all of a sudden I was like, damn, this is crazy. I was like,
you're killing me right now. Yeah, like I'm actually, you're blowing my mind because
this is common sense.
Yeah, and I don't even know if you even brought this up in like your like deliberating back and forth, but like the orcs don't have the ability to get a library's conclave for under 250 points to make shit invisible. To make stuff, shrouded, to make this and this. Like, they don't have easy buffs that the Space Marines and the Eldar have access to.
They don't have any buffs, man.
So, literally, you're talking, you can make a 380-point Wraith Knight or a 420-point Knight Titan invincible for 250 points, making them invisible or shrouded and all these things.
So now you can do something similar with a Stompa. You can put, you can give that same big mech that gives you the custom force field, you can give him the Fixer-Upper, requires a whole point on a 3. You can give him Grout Oilers, so he gets to re-roll it once per turn. Then you can put a bunch of other big mechs in there that fix it on 5s and re-rolls. So at the end of the day, you can make them so there's no way to blow it up in one shooting phase. Unless you do. If you blow it up in one shooting phase, he's done. But he'll be able to he'll repair like 4 hull points, right?
That is infinity times more expensive than Library's Conclave to make it invisible.
Yeah, all of a sudden, and it's still not invisible because literally, if you roll up against a Knight Titan or a Knight Echelon or something, he goes like, yo, I got 3 hits with my destroyer weapons, rolled 1/6, so I did 9 hull points. Then I did 10, 11 for my other one. Now, no matter what I roll, and the last one, as long as it's not a 1, you destroy it. So still, and you didn't get to attack. You didn't get to destroy me in return. So at the end of the day, a 400-point Stomper. Get the fuck out of here. It changed my mind. I started reading through the document. It is literally just a common sense thing. This is the only Stompa Orcs should have ever had. And here's something else. The Stompa in the Orc Codex, it's only like 700 points because it has all the upgrades. It has the super gun, the super missiles. It has literally the hundreds of points of upgrades that make it super expensive. I mean, if you look at the custom Stampa, it's about a 400-point Stampa too. Stampas should only be 400 points. If they give you a Stampa without all those guns, it would cost 400 points. So this Dread Mob PDF, this is the only, if you're going to take a super heavy in an Orc army, this is the only way you should ever take it, because GW messed up when they put the entry in the book and not giving you another version of the Stampa that could be bare bones, because I would only ever run them bare bones. I don't, and this Stampa, the only other thing people get upset about is that this Stampa gets D6 voice shields at the beginning of the game. Changes every game. You can have 1, you can have 6, you can have 2, you can have 3. So he gets sort of a blade of armor. So he has like a ghetto man's, ion shield. But still, like I said, he's initiative 1. 9 times out of 10, a Night Titan's going to blow him up, and he's not going to swing. So get over it. I read the document. It's common sense. It made pure sense to me. Then I read back and forth all the comments online, and they were able to convince me. And I was like, I've been like the number one guy on this podcast who's been like, nope, don't like it, don't like the ITC. I don't like any of the rules in there, but I do understand that this is good for the hobby. I am now completely backpedaled. And I'm like, okay, I completely now understand what they're doing, and I am excited to be in the scene and start to do some empirical research by playing these things in the format here where it was born. Currently, I've gone from negative to positive, 100% negative. I've gone from like 30% negative on the subject to 0% negative on the subject. I'm 100% positive with the ITC currently.
Love it. It reminds me of this famous event that happened in real life where Rocky Balboa fought Ivan Drago in Russia. And it was a cold winter that winter. I remember watching it live because that really, truly happened. There was a monument built after Rocky after this. He said at the end of the fight that if he can change, that we all can change. All right? He got a standing ovation from the Russians. It basically stopped World War III, okay? It really happened.
This is real. I mean, there's a statue of Rocky in his a fictional character in a real-life town that actually Joe Frazier, one of the greatest boxers of all time, lived in, and he doesn't have a statue. So that's how serious. Yeah. That's how real that statement is.
I feel like it really happened. Okay.
It happened, dog. Mike Haspel always talks about the movie. He's like, because he saw it in theaters. He's like, we came out of the theaters ready to fight the Russians.
Right.
We're gonna box them all. But that's just my 2 cents. That's my 2 cents today.
What a great talk. I mean, I would like to finalize and end with my portion of it saying love what the ITC is doing. I will be handing out a bunch of I told you so's in 5 years from now when the ITC has fully taken over. Just kidding.
We'll hand out some handies and some hugs.
That's right.
As we're all, and hopefully our process of re-educating people into the social element, hopefully they blend together eventually. And I am here in the West Coast, the birthplace of the ITC, and hopefully I can do a little boots to the ground, research here and a little bit of boots to the ground re-education here, and maybe we can blend the two together and have like the most perfect system that 40k has ever known in the history of 30 years.
Like a whiskey, a blended whiskey,
like blending whiskey with air in a glass. That's like the perfect blend. So hopefully we can attain that blend.
Well, now once you put it in the glass, does Mountain Dew? When do you add the Mountain Dew?
What we're trying to do is we're trying to eliminate the need for Mountain Dew in this equation.
Yeah, and we're just gonna get rid of that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to go ahead and come in on Sunday.
we might obviously with the training wheels are gonna have to be in place. We might training wheels everyone with like purple Gatorade.
Mm-hmm. Start out with like 4 ounces of Gatorade and then slowly cut it back
to Mountain Dew.
Yeah, you just can't go cold turkey.
No.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think we're about over on time. Kenny, you got your new hobby project out there in the open. It sounds dope. I can't wait to see what you're gonna do.
So look forward to some tutorials. So it's gonna be a twofer. First ever next level painting orc tutorials coming soon. Never been seen before. And then eventually first ever orc battle reports in the long war once it happens, and we'll be getting some inside the mind of a orc tournament player. We'll see how many times I say wall during a game, because I feel like all orc players have to scream wall and annoy the shit out of everybody else in the room.
Everybody else around them, without a doubt. That's definitely a thing that you have to do. All right, so what do you think? Is that about it for this one?
I'll put my seal on it.
It's in the books.
Done deal. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging in there with us. And personal note to everybody, thank you for all the well wishes and everything. What's been happening in my life, I greatly appreciate all the support from everybody out there. So we're gonna call it. Thanks for listening. Make sure you head on over to longwar.net. That's the home of the battle reports for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today.